What's up, YouTube family? This is Elder Stacy Zanders coming to you with the video that has been promised in my YouTube short, The Games People Play. And we're going to get right into it, but it's important to understand that most people that play these psychological, mental, emotional games typically will have a narcissistic type of personality. And there are some topics that we're going to cover today, maybe not all of them, but we're going to definitely deal with a few of them. Number one, we're going to deal with gaslighting. Then there's love bombing. Then there's ghosting, triangulation, playing the victim, and rage. And sometimes when people play these games, and like I said in the YouTube short, sometimes people don't recognize that they're even playing games. But let's get right into it, because some of this comes out of our environment, our experiences growing up as children that we have learned through osmosis, through observation, watching other people play these type of games. But the first one I want to deal with is I want to talk about gaslighting. And you've probably heard of gaslighting since this term has gotten quite a bit of attention in the last few years. It actually is based on an old movie that was actually called Gaslighting, where the husband tries to make his wife feel like she was losing her mind. And indeed, the core idea behind gaslighting is to get you to feel like you're the one in the wrong when it's really the other way around. And gaslighting is a form of severe emotional manipulation where the goal of the gaslighter is to sow seeds of confusion. And the Bible says that God is not the author of confusion. So if there is confusion in the midst, then you know that is the enemy behind all of this, and not anything that comes from God. And the aim is to make you doubt your own thoughts, your emotions, and your own reality. And generally, narcissistic gaslighting is typically a long-term, gradual technique that they use. The ultimate intention is to keep you under tight control and dependent upon them. And for example, let's say during breakfast, you ask your husband, wife, your partner, significant other to pick up some milk from the store on their way home. And when the time comes, they come home, they arrive with no milk. And then when you point it out, they may respond to you by saying, "You never told me to pick up milk. You just imagining this crazy stuff." And the thing is, the more someone gaslights you, the more you begin to doubt yourself and wonder if they were actually right. And also in dealing with gaslighting, it can take a toll on your self-esteem or your mental health. And more common ways people may gaslight you, for example, they may say, "I did it because I love you." Or they may say, "Look, you're just too sensitive, and nobody has ever done for you what I've done for you." That's type of gaslighting a situation to try to take control of who you are and make you feel like you're in the wrong. And really, they're playing manipulative games with you. The second one I want to talk about is ghosting. And ghosting happens when someone suddenly stops communicating with you without warning. And it can happen in any relationship, but typically it's in most dating scenarios. When you have finally accepted to date a person who has inundated you with attention for a few weeks, a month, or whatever the case may have been, and then one day after a date, you try to check their Instagram profile or their Facebook or TikTok, and then you realize that they have blocked you. This has to be, and you may say to yourself, this has to be a mistake of some kind. So then you text them, nothing. Hours later, you try calling them, nothing. Days or maybe a week go by, nothing. Guess what? You've been ghosted. And the act of ghosting is a power move that someone with narcissistic personality disorder may use. And there may be many reasons why someone may ghost you. It don't necessarily have to mean that this person is narcissistic. And maybe because they lost interest in you and want to avoid the conflict of telling you personally. And it may be that they want to see your reaction and how much you care. But these are still manipulative games. These are the games that people would play. Nobody had time for this foolishness. And often it's just another manipulation tactic. It's a breakup game. They use to feel they had the last word and that they was in control of the relationship. And do narcissists come back after ghosting you? Not typically, not likely, but they might if they want to gain something from it. Now remember, not everyone who ghosts you has a personality disorder. This tactic can be used by anyone in many circumstances, and it's not necessarily a sign of a mental health condition every single time. The next one I want to discuss and talk about is one that's called triangulation. And triangulation is another way a person with narcissistic personality disorder might feel like they can maintain the upper hand. And some, triangulation is getting a third person involved in your communication channels. Or in other words, it's when you send your message through a third person or justify an action with this third person told me. This third person told me this person told me that, they said this, they said that. And triangulation can also take many forms. And many of us have been through scenarios like this. And a common one is trying to get you jealous and to compete for their attention by insistently comparing you directly or indirectly with the third person. And I've known a female that have said she was married, she now was married to another person, and would say such and such didn't do this, or such and such did that all the time, or such and such do that. I said, that is not a good thing to do. You know, those are games, but these are some games people play. And other times, triangulation works as a divide and conquer tactic. So you got to remember that people use this. You know what a triangle is. We all know what a triangle is. It's that little triangle, that triangulation, and they may try to use it to manipulate you, divide and conquer, separate this one so they can conquer on another front. You have to be careful because these are games that people will play. Say that your best friend is jealous of one of your most recent friendships, and they may say to you, I don't know why, but Alex said some really rude things about you the other night. I defended you, of course, and then you might go to Alex and say the same thing, and they may go to Alex and say the same thing about you. Typically, people with this narcissistic triangulation may also be about getting you involved in their conflict with someone else. People do that. You know, some friends, if I'm mad at you, you should be mad at them also. You know, so you want to be careful of those type of games. If you upset and mad with somebody, it don't have anything to do with me. And narcissistic triangulation, may also be about getting you involved, as I said, in their conflict with somebody else. And maybe they ask you to defend them publicly and make you feel guilty if you don't. Maybe they tell you to intervene on their behalf to do something that could be embarrassing for them to do themselves. So you just want to be careful when people try to put you in situations or scenarios that you should not be in. The next one I want to talk about is people that play the victim. And people with NPD often experience emotions more intensely or are highly reactive to any form of criticism because it's difficult for them to engage in self-reflection. And they need to justify themselves when things aren't going their way. This often means putting the blame on others when their life isn't planned out. For example, they might justify not meeting their goals at work by whining all the time about you were late to work for this month. You coming to work late might have something to do with it, or it might have nothing to do with it. So when you got to look out for some of these things when people are have this play the victim mentality. And either way they're playing the victim just justify something that was otherwise in their hands, but they want to act like you're the reason why I could not do what I needed to do. And because I didn't do what I needed to do, I'm going to blame you for it. And then maybe you get a promotion that they were after. They might explain to their co-workers or family by saying you achieved it by kissing up to the boss. Obviously, they deserve it more than they say. Blaming others for the disappointment feels better than internalizing the idea that they might not be have been qualified for the particular promotion. In romantic relationships, playing the victim may get you to back off. For example, your partner gets really defensive after you tell them they forgot to pick up the milk on the way home. Then they start saying how exhausted they are, how much they needed to come home and get some peace, and how you managed to ruin it for them every single time. This makes you back off and leave them alone, and maybe you'll get the milk yourself. So for them, mission accomplished. And then the next one I want to talk about is revenge. Maybe the final one. If a person with NPD feels they have been embarrassed, rejected, or treated unfairly, it can provoke sometimes an intense sense of shame, humiliation, and rage. This is often called narcissistic rage or rage injury. Sometimes these overwhelming negative feelings can lead a person with narcissistic personality to become extremely vindictive. Narcissistic rage may lead them to unleash an all-out campaign to ruin you. If they now perceive that you as the enemy of some type, and they might even come up with a long-term plan to get revenge. This revenge tactic could include slander, abuse, property destruction, and in some extreme cases, physical violence. And some of us have been through situations like this where folks are trying to be vindictive, bitter, have all of these tendencies of rage, playing long term. They're going to get back with you. They're going to get their revenge. And sometimes you haven't done anything. People would do this when they could be jealous over you. They could be just envious. They could be just, this malice and sadistic, this strife, all this stuff that may be taking place on the inside of them where they feel like they want to get revenge on you. These are just, about maybe five of them that I dealt with today on some of the games, psychological, manipulative games that people play that you really need to be careful of. And then also, lastly, I want to close with just saying people with narcissistic personality disorder may engage in a variety of games or manipulation tactics. This is so they fulfill their need to be or appear superior or powerful. And although it might be tempting to retaliate, seek an apology, or even try to fix them, a person with NPD usually has a hard time being aware of how their behavior affects others because they're so focused on themselves. This isn't by personal choice. It's some of these people are living with a complex mental health condition, and manipulation tactics are not always a symptom of mental health condition. Some people just like to play stupid games. Also, not everyone with narcissistic personality disorder will use some of these tactics. If you are engaged in a relationship where you feel others are manipulating you constantly, despite your efforts to for them to stop, consider taking a step back, setting boundaries, or even letting those individuals that are affecting you in your life go. Hey, listen, this is Elder Stacey Zanders. I hope we said something that will help you along the way. We're going to get some rest ourselves. It's been a very long week for us. But be prayerful. Keep these things in mind. And I want to say, as always, until the next video, God bless you.